Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Bite Size Opinions, Underrated or Overrated. My name is Vladi. I'm your host for today, and with me we have Victor Moreno. Victor, please introduce yourself. Couple of words.
Thank you, Bloody. Glad to be here. So my name is Victor. I'm an engineer. I'm a software engineer, not by academy, but by accident, let's say. I've been leading a few teams on the startup kind of environment, and I'm currently trying new things in bigger companies. But yeah, I'm believer in agile, XP, and that sort of really cool stuff that sound
Okay.
like new, but are kind of
Kind of old. Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, I do believe in people before code and books before video tutorials or whatever.
All right. Okay. Interesting. I know people who are the other way around. The books contain all the information and, videos fresh. But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Based on what you said, I think some of the topics for today are really spot on. Just a quick reminder for everybody. There will be topics shown on the screen, and the guest here, Victor, will say if it's underrated or overrated, and then we will go into the why. And then we will have a second part, which we will get to in at the end of it.
Just to check, there's only overrated and underrated, but not just about right. Or
Yeah, you can
okay,
mention just about right, no worries.
okay,
The first topic for today is TDD, test-driven development.
underrated.
Underrated. You were confident in saying underrated. Why?
Because TDD is the closest I've found to the way that I think about software, which is people first.
Hmm.
So TDD gives an answer to that, at least tries, not that many others tried. So I really believe this is underrated because this has the power to transform a lot of teams and projects and companies. Yeah, I think this is not the key, but a key. So yeah,
One of them.
one of them, sure.
Right. So people first and TDD is quite an interesting association.
Yeah,
How is that?
yeah, sure. Yeah. So TDD is Kenbeck, which is also XP. So I kind of put XP together always with TDD, which maybe I shouldn't, but yeah, and from the way I see things, TDD gets its best value by using it together with pair programming and even mob programming. So, especially when you use it together with someone else. So that's why I say
Mhm.
it's people first. But you may argue that TDD is also a conversation with yourself if you are doing it on your own. So it's kind of people first as well.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it's actually the social aspect basically on pair and
Exactly.
mob programming. That's an interesting approach. Never thought about that this way, but yeah, it makes sense. All right. Um, let's jump to the next one, which is Scrum.
I would say it's overrated, but can discuss.
Yes, please do.
I see Scrum, not me, but some see Scrum as a way to sell agile to corporate. So in that way, it's okay. It's the worst of the best. So at least you are starting with agile if you buy Scrum, but you're having like really poor value out of agile. But at least it's something. So yeah, it's and yeah, you can do Scrum. Can work. I understand how difficult it is to sell this hippie approach to programming to big corporates about okay, put your people, put culture, and talk about what you're doing uh, right and what you are doing wrong, which is pretty much what Agile is about, which is about learning. But then you put in nice little boxes in retrospective and daily. When the fact is, when you have a good culture, you are communicating all the time. You don't need these meetings to remind the team that you need to talk. You just do it. So, in really high performance teams, you don't even need a framework such as Scrum. You just speak whenever you need to.
Regardless of the size of the team?
Uh, um, yes, I mean there's like a boundary, right, to what a fluent team in terms of communication is, which between 6 and 8 or 10 or so. So the idea is to split your problem, your domain, your company, so you can have these small high performance teams and then let them decide what they need to do to fix your company.
Right. Well, you mostly touched upon Scrum certifications, which
Yeah.
that's a lot. But you also said about it's something, right? It's better than nothing. But you know, like in code, instead of having 200 lines of garbage, you might as well just have no lines of code. Isn't that the same with Scrum? Instead of having a bunch of rigid rules, which are kind of against the agile approach, maybe have no rules.
Okay. So no rules, as in no framework, or
Yeah.
what do you mean? I didn't quite get
Yes.
your point.
Yes.
Your brains.
No rules are better than too many rules, like in certified Scrum.
Yeah. No rules on the proper culture is, of course, better. But if you don't have a good culture or even a culture,
A
then
culture.
maybe Scrum can help you start building one.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
well, guys, but yeah, I've seen it work. As in a company that comes from a waterfall way of doing things, then having these forced conversations about what went okay, then it's a start. And then you can maybe some other initiatives raise from there.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's okay. It can work. I'm not really against. I'm against certifications and all these. You know, the meta agile or meta scrum thing,
The
which
bloat.
yeah, the blow, the business, which I understand. And I mean, people need, has to make a living, but yeah, I mean, that's not agile. That's just a business, which is okay.
All right.
It's not my thing.
Great. Okay. Wonderful. What about working at a startup as a software engineer?
I say that it's just about right. Yeah, I know it. Working at a startup has a lot of, I don't know, how to say. romanticism attached.
Nice, nice.
You So there's some narrative that I think interested built with Silicon Valley narratives, and it's a way to sell long hours and pizza. So yeah, I mean, it's great. It's really cool if done well. If you found a good startup, it's a really good ride. But the fact that the startup doesn't mean anything. Startup
Okay.
is not not something that is, in a way. Besides maybe not having, maybe that's what most startups have in common. But yeah, I would say it's great. So it's a small environment. So small environments are easy to change. In that way, is really fun if that's what you are into.
Hmm. So if I'm a software engineer and I have just a couple of years experience, and let's say I have two job offers, one from a startup and the other from a larger corporate type of company, how could I determine if that startup is right for me? Assuming that I am looking for a smaller team, make changes, learn a lot of things, etc.
So learning is the goal, but
Yeah.
not completely disconnected from uh, the money, right? Which is, I mean, every set, every situation is different, but assuming you are okay with the money you can get from a startup, I think you need first to meet the team. That's always, I think, a requirement before entering. So it's not that's a startup or corporate or whatever. It's you
Hmm.
need to understand, to know, at least try to know the people you are going to work with, because you can learn a lot in 5 minutes, and you can detect if the company is willing to train someone. Because you mentioned a couple of years of experience, so I'm
Hmm.
gonna, and for me by that, if someone feels uh, bad about it, I'm gonna call that the junior. I think it's fair. So a friend of mine wants the junior as someone that by definition cannot make mistakes. And when saying no, make no mistakes mean in production, mean as critical mistakes for the company. Of course, can do some stuff, can mistakes but by definition, whatever a junior does must be within a safe environment. And it's the responsibility of the team, of the seniors of the team, to build such environment so it's safe to be wrong, so you can learn. So that's what I would look in a startup, in the team. Is the team embracing juniors, but in a good way, or are they just looking for cheap labor?
And I can see your people first approach again
Yeah.
in here, and I really like it. So the next topic we have for today is Web3.
Overrated.
Okay, another confident
Yeah.
answer.
I mean, it's not that I know much about it, though I had some 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 work in the past with Web3, but it's just maybe Web3 is great, but it's bloated by cryptocurrency stuff. And you know, I know we should think separately between those two, but
Mhm.
from my outsider point of view, 95% of Web3 is just speculation and cryptocurrencies. So until Web3 industry companies, developers, whatever, do not find a way to split and to say, okay, we are not this crypto scam anymore and we're doing cool stuff, you can see. But I can yet, I have yet to find a project in Web3 that I see, okay, that's cool. Not it for me, and for now, like every cool Web3 project just seemed like an excuse to keep speculating with crypto. So not dogmatic, but cautious and waiting for. I mean, it's okay. It's technology. I can be surprised, but not interested up to the point that I just was tempted to scratch that one. But they said, okay, let's be brave and talk Web3 if we need to.
Right. Okay. So once you see some actual value from it, then you probably reconsider.
Sure, as with everything in life, even with Scrum certifications, if ever
Who knows
they get it
the
right at some
future?
point. Yeah.
All right. Next up is the idea, the concept of AI replacing software engineers. What do you think about that?
Mm, I think something similar. I guess that when video was gonna kill the radio star, or when IDEs were gonna destroy whatever. I don't know if that happened, but I mean, it's a tool. It's a great tool. I'm all for it. I just I think that replacing software engineers is not a thing. It's just replacing some of the work that software engineers do.
Do, yeah.
Maybe there's software engineers doing the work that an AI could someday do, which is a problem. The same as with the, how do you call the this thing with the telephone when the telephone started with the wires, and so they were like, okay,
Yeah, the
these wires,
operators.
the operators exactly. So
Mhm.
at some point that changed, and those jobs were no more.
Yep.
But I don't think that the jobs that the AI may replace, I wouldn't call that software engineer.
Fair enough. We're on the same page almost. I mean, just like with IDEs or something like that, it augmented our work. Maybe we stop, I don't know, searching in 10 different files for replacing something manually, sure. But other than that, we're still.
Maybe test become like a new abstraction layer, as in a higher level language, because now you don't care that much about architecture. I don't know. I'm just wild guessing here, but the machine doesn't need architecture. You know, computer doesn't need architecture. It's we humans that need architecture because software is a tool to communicate between us
Machine.
humans,
Yeah.
not between humans and the machine. The machine
Hmm.
doesn't need design nor test nor whatever. Those are tools we need. So if we don't know how to code, let's say in assembly, because I just learned a lot of years ago and I don't remember anything, and that's not a problem. Maybe at some point, not knowing architecture it's even an option because I'm really good at testing. So that testing language becomes the higher level language I need to master. I don't know, just a wild guess, but maybe, maybe it's just assuming that like testing the BDD style, for example, are closer to the natural language. Maybe that's
Hmm.
how we end communicating with the computer, as an Iron Man with Jarvis is the computer.
Yeah.
It's pretty much I mean, Stark is coding, right? It's programming, but through a high level language, really close or identical to natural language. So that's how things might end. But you need the rational, you need the creativity, and you need the risk contingency that only humans, I think, will ever had the skill to do. Because I know how to assume risk, or at least try to understand how risk works. I don't think that a machine will ever assess the risk properly. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can also get some statistic for there and some, I don't know. Not really an expert in AI, but sure, why not? The same as with Web3. Just let them bring the tools and I will just be waiting open minded.
Nice. For me, AI is, well, and even generative AI, whatever, it's changing the the input basic, right? I mean, and it kind of similar with what you said, because instead of having architecture and maybe even code that tests code, we could change the input, the code, with something else that tests further on. I like that idea. I really enjoy this
Yeah,
conversation. You're bringing a touch of a different perspective, just a very similar train of thoughts, essentially.
cool.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
enjoying
yeah.
it.
This is one of the reasons I started this podcast, to gain new perspective and to see how others are approaching the same things. Okay, now I'm certain, but let's just check. How do you feel about pair programming?
Yeah, I would say that it's getting harder not to think in programming as a group activity. Being
Mm,
a pair, the smallest unit of a worker, a resource, whatever. I mean, it's getting harder for me try to think as one individual as a unit of work
right.
because you lose so much stuff by doing that. It's like, I mean, it's when you try to explain love to someone else, and I mean, you can do a sonnet or you can try to whatever, but at the end, if you don't feel it, it's really hard to buy it. It's the same for me, like with XP or pair programming. Uh, when you feel it, it's like, okay, this is it, and you can not unsee and learn it because now
Mhm.
in, in the matrix, right? You took
Yeah.
the red pill, so now you see. You can try to, but it's just feels unnatural to go back to coding alone.
Have you heard of the when others are referencing pair programming? Why don't you try it? Have you heard people saying that we don't have the budget for that?
Those people usually have the budget for peer reviewing. I mean, PRs, MRs, whatever. So that's my first approach. Have you ever take into account end to end the time you take with a big PR or the dynamics, the psychological dynamics that happen? Because usually what happens is when you have a tough one, you tend to give that PR to a friend, or to someone you know, and you start messing with the idea of a PR, which was, I think, created for async, really async environments for people working in different time zones or whatever. So paid programming was maybe was at least hard to do. Maybe it was not impossible, but hard. So then you have the second best option, which at least we are gonna review each other the same as scientists do, right? With reviewing the articles. But again, when you've tried that continuous reviewing real time when you are coding, both comes together with the knowledge transfer, with the enhancement. It is another level. It's like uh, I was gonna say something, but I don't know the audience was. But I'm gonna.
Let's
It's
keep
like
it PG.
no, it's like a colleague, a friend, maybe, and a partner in life. It's different.
Hmm.
Okay, if you only have friends, that when you find love, when you find a partner that's just fits, then you get to a whole new level because you are amplified. That's what happens with pair programming. It's a multiplier.
Wow, that's so beautiful said.
Thank you. It's just how I see it. Is when you feel the click, the okay. Uh, it takes time to make it work, but not the
So does a good relationship. It takes time,
yeah,
right?
exactly. And yeah, and in daily care. Yeah, exactly. It's the same. The thing is
I,
you cannot do uh programming or TDD or any of those XP practices if you don't have a safe environment and the proper culture, right? You can not have a relationship with someone else if honesty, it's not the thing that drives everything. You need to be honest, you need to be safe because you need to be vulnerable and you need to be able to say, I don't know how to do that. You drive or you navigate. You're doing pair programming, driver navigator style. So, I mean, you can you make available a lot of new dynamics. For example, you were mentioning this junior that enters a new team,
yeah.
then can start driving. I mean, can be driven by other more seniors or people that's been more time with the project and just be an intelligent keyboard. But uh, the learning advantages are awesome because now you start. I mean, you are being navigated. You don't have control, but with the language that probably you know, maybe don't, and you start just coding and okay, create a test, and the test should I don't know, test for whatever the user. When the user is created, you send an email. Okay, write that. Now create the class, and now so you can work at a higher level of abstraction. You can. It's pretty much what we were talking just a few minutes ago. You have an I, right? An
Hmm.
intelligence. You don't need the artificial. You have a human intelligence you can communicate with at a higher abstraction level, so you could get things up to speed really quick. And even for example, I'm starting working with a company. They're working in Elixir with this. It's a
Oh,
functional program based on Erlang. I've never done any Elixir in my life, but if I do pair programming, I can program through the knowledge of Elixir of someone else. Okay, create a class. There's no classes, just modules. Okay, I don't know, just whatever that received the request to create a user. And now I see the code emerging in front of my eyes, and then I learn. And I didn't even know about functional programming or Elixir or whatever, but it's happening just in front of me, so I learn because that's how my brain works. And most of the brains is just by doing, by not by reading in a book or whatever. The final knowledge, as in the Dreyfus knowledge scale, comes from practicing.
Yes.
So that's what pair programming allows you to do, is just practice, learn all the time. And it's hard, and you can get really tired by doing that. So more than 45 minutes a session, I would say that's but okay, then you take 5, you take 10 and go again. But
And go again. Mm.
yeah, sure.
Good,
And
good productivity tip. So to sum up, if you're a software engineer looking for a new company, and if it's a startup, ask if they do pair programming, because you will get a tremendous boost.
of course, yeah. I mean, whatever it's if you hear TDD, pair programming, XP, mob programming, I mean, whatever it sounds like normal, natural, without all the preconceptions, whatever
Mhm.
feels like home, then go there. Because I mean, I'm gonna maybe branch a bit topic here, but maybe as an industry, we have these stereotype, you know, like the engineer you see in the movies with the hoodie and working late and hero, this hero character that just gets things done, which is
Or the hacker.
the hacker, exactly. Which it's kind of true. I mean, it's not that far away from reality. Of course, it's a movie, but I think we as a company, as an industry, have this let's say this bias towards engineers that work comfortably alone. So maybe, and I know what I'm saying is a bit spicy, but maybe that's a way of exploitation. Because if you hire someone you expect to work for you like 12, 14 hours per day because you assume he or she has no life, then you're getting twice the engineer for the price of one. Even the price is higher than, but I know I'm gonna get there. Yeah. What I would say is, we have this bias, this tendency as an industry to hire these kind of engineers. Then what happens when you try to uh, create safe environments and connections and conversations? And I mean, you've been hiring for 20 years people that are glad not to connecting with others, or not to having conversation, at least having the least amount of conversation they can. So now you have the problem. Now you have to fix it, but you need to fix it with by hiring people with kids, and by hiring people with other interests besides engineering or besides work, because those are the good ones. Those are the ones that gather life from other sources and then put those good feelings into the code. You need a good engineer knows about stuff, no, not just about technology, knows about politics and literature and humanities or whatever, because that's your domain, right? You're not working in the domain of technology. You're working in the domain of finances, or maybe education or whatever. So stop and not stop, but take into account that an engineer that has something to do after work, it's a good thing, not a bad thing.
I have to say that I never expected somebody to associate pair programming with love, the keyword love. That was completely unexpected for me, but I understood your point. And yeah, very nice, very nice.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next one, which is LinkedIn, the social network, let's say.
Okay. Um, I would say just about right. I just don't care much about LinkedIn. It's like, okay, it's a tool. Don't know, I don't have much to say. I use it. We met through the LinkedIn, so that's a
Yeah,
good thing. But maybe something else comes up, and another company just takes some of the space that it looks like LinkedIn is the only one, just in the professional space. I don't know. I just use it whenever I need to and forget that it exists until I need it again.
again.
To be
Okay,
honest,
no, straight to the point. What about newsletters? Do you read, consume, create? And what do you think about them?
I think the words in parentheses makes the difference. I mean, newsletters are marketing or
Mhm.
just another way of communication, as may say medium articles can be, because you can frame newsletters as a knowledge transfer, but I know that usually are a way to sell some other product.
Oh, yeah,
So
product or service. So,
yeah, service. I would say that they're about right. Yeah, it's cool. You're giving me some value, then I buy. I can buy. Yeah, sure. I consume some, mm, but I don't. I'm not used to the format. I don't get to be comfortable with uh, consuming from mail and such. I rather be. I don't know. I'm more. Don't know why. Maybe it's something that's me that I'm just not used to check my mail for newsletters. It's just I don't have the association right yet.
interesting. Yeah. Um, the last topic for today is having a mentor. What do you think about that?
Uh, Again, I would say that's the best you can have as an engineer and probably as a human being. Yeah, I mean, I'm a believer in mentorship. Sure.
So
Uh,
it's underrated. Just to
it's
clarify, it's an
underrated.
underrated.
Sure. Underrated. Yeah, sure. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Heavily underrated.
Did you have a mentor?
Um, yes, but not an official mentor, not someone that said to me, okay, I'm gonna be your mentor. I had
Mm.
the lack of finding generous people along my way that were brave enough to tell me that I didn't know stuff as well as I thought I did. So, because you need to be brave to tell someone that, okay, you're not as smart as you think, and you should probably check this book and try to learn from this guy. You need courage for that. And I had that. And actually, that's been kind of a driver in my professional life, try to find people willing to share knowledge and to discuss and to create safe environments, because from my perspective, that's where you can get the most of this profession, because it's really beautiful when done properly. And I mean, of course, it's people. People is what makes everything worth living, including engineering. Yeah,
I'm
have a mentor. Find one.
I'm assuming that actually I'll have a follow up question on that, but I'm assuming that
Sure.
the mentor or the mentors that you mentioned, which had this courage to give you this, in a way, negative feedback, you're not good enough or whatever. It mattered the way the feedback was given to you, right?
Sure, sure. And that's important. And you need to be mature enough to receive feedback. That's why
Correct.
it takes courage to give, say, negative, let's say constructive feedback, because you know what you're exposing to. A bad reaction to someone that you maybe respect and maybe love. So giving constructive feedback, it's delicate. I mean, you have to be careful about it, and you need to be brave. So, but that's for all the constructive feedback, even the positive one. You need to be brave as well to be able to just say that someone else has did something.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, I had that. I'm trying to be that for as many people as I can, because I learned that I enjoy growing through others and knowing that there's a little bit of someone else's success that's also my success. And I that's that's what I found that I want to do for the rest of my life. I mean, for now, I'm as I said, I'm open to change, but yeah, that's it. I rather have a small piece of someone else's success than my own success.
And the follow up question is, how do you find a mentor?
By asking first, and by being brave and have the courage to ask. To ask for help, first you need to acknowledge that you do not know everything, that you may be failing. That's I mean, that's the first thing you need. Not in a okay, I know I don't know everything. No, no, you need to acknowledge that and to be honest and to be naked in front of that truth. I may be failing greatly in some of my approaches, and maybe there's someone else in the world that can help me. So once I know that, then I can start asking. And probably you get surprised by how people react to the asking of help, because pretty much everyone gets something from helping other people, even if it's ego. That's like okay, I don't doesn't matter much why you do it, but if you do it, yeah, and I'm getting value from it, if it that goes, but because I don't know, you are somehow balancing some inner moral you have, that's okay.
Mhm.
Uh, but I mean, from my perspective, at least I got surprised about how people react when you ask directly. For
Nice.
I don't know how to do that. So is anyone able to help me? Just tell me how. Yeah, I would say that having a mentor is something else. Is a bit deeper, because yeah, it gets serious. But you don't need to declare, to label a relation as a mentorship at the beginning. You can start by asking for help and see if there's compatibilities in the human side of it, because that's necessary. As I said, you need a safe environment because you need to be vulnerable to be able to get the most of a mentorship relation, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. And the other person, the person offering advice, also needs to be vulnerable and admitting that sometimes he or she doesn't know the answer as well. So it's not the right person to ask.
Sure. I mean, I don't think you can be a mentor if you haven't go through this personal transformation about knowing that you can. It's like when you go to therapy, right? It's for me, it will be really hard to understand that the therapist has never been in a therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes little sense to me. You need to know what it means to be vulnerable, so you can respect that when you found it, and be the people you need to be when someone else is naked in front of you.
Dear guests, some wise words were said in this podcast. I hope you paid attention. Thank you very much, Victor. We are done with the first part. Now we're towards the end, and we are going to the rapid fire section. So what that means is there won't be any words on the screen. I'll just say it again. You'll just say underrated or overrated. Just about right, just like now. But you also have the option to skip in case you really have no experience or you can't say anything about that particular topic. There are a bunch of them. We're just going through them quickly, and that's it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, great. So the first one is Jamstack.
I'm gonna skip it.
Sure. Docker.
Just about right.
TypeScript.
Underrated.
Kafka.
Overrated.
Cloud certifications.
Overrated.
Who would have guessed? Career breaks.
Career breaks.
Yes.
Oh, that good one. Underrated.
DDD, domain-driven development.
Underrated.
Hexagonal architecture.
Overrated.
Open source software.
Underrated.
VR, as in virtual reality.
Just about right.
Fintech, neobanks.
Just about right.
Kubernetes.
Just about right.
Infrastructure as code.
Underrated.
Remote work.
Just about right.
And finally, mechanical keyboards.
Oh, that's this hard one. Probably overrated. I'm gonna be honest here. Though,
Thanks. Oh, lovely.
yeah.
All right. So this is it. This was the second part of the podcast. Again, Victor, thank you very much for your opinions It was delightful to hear you.
Thank you, Vladimir. It was a pleasure to be here with you.
Stay tuned for more episodes. Bye bye.